Good afternoon. Claude Rossiger again, and continuing on the matter that we discussed in the second broadcast, that of the curious sequence of events that obtained from the termination of a department head, the subsequent termination of the town manager, the rehiring of the department head, and the associated events that I think struck quite a few of us as at least unexplained. But really the purpose of these broadcasts is to address management of our town, how to make it better. If the only purpose were to complain, then it's not a very good purpose. But in order to make things better, sometimes one has to consider how things go wrong. And if we take the example of this curious succession in town management in late 2019, 2020, having terminated the then town manager, the selectmen appointed an interim manager. And I think that was done very quickly, so quickly that one could reasonably think that it had been planned. But set that aside, that doesn't really matter. The person named is a perfectly decent individual. Decent, who would serve the town to the best of his capability, I'm sure. So that's not the issue. The issue is that the town pretended to go through a call for candidates. This was a sham. It was, the motions were gone through, but in fact, they had already determined who they would choose, which has to lead us to ask whether the absolute best candidate to become the town manager was somebody who just happened to be at a desk nearby. It could happen, but it's very unlikely. The other thing is that if we pretend to have a fair examination of candidates to see how we can secure the best possible candidate for the position, we would have to go through with that. We would have to seriously undertake to select from a number of applicants. We might also have to consider what we have done wrong and what we've done right in the past. One of the issues that I long have raised is that we do not offer a sufficient compensation for the position of town manager to attract the people who we need. They won't work for that money. In today's market, you have to pay something commensurate with market rates, and we don't. On the one hand, you could say, oh, well, we save money. No, that's not right. If you don't get the right management in place, you're going to waste a lot of money. Not because people are wasteful or so forth. It's a lack of capacity. That's the difference. So the right manager, at the cost that whatever it is, will save us money and work to reduce our tax burden. Simultaneously, that manager will work to improve the efficiency of the town departments and their performance in their public service. That would be the job of the town manager, wouldn't it? But in this unhappy sequence of events of early 2020, that wasn't the plan. And I think we can say that with a certain assurance because we know what happened. Once again, I really want to emphasize that the person who was first put as interim manager and then confirmed as manager is a very decent individual. And I hope that neither he nor anyone else would take it ill if I were to venture that he didn't have and doesn't have the management experience to do the job. On the other hand, you'd have to ask, and I had that discussion with him before he accepted the job, you'd have to ask whether anybody would be allowed to do the job by the Board of Selectmen. And that strikes to the core of the issue. Did our Board of Selectmen ever accept our vote, that's all of us, the citizens, in favor of a town manager form of government? I believe that from the performance that we have seen since that time, the Board of Selectmen never did accept that. They intended to remain the de facto managers of the town. And the fact that we voted a town manager form of government, well, so what? Just an extra employee, isn't it? I know, because I knew most of the town managers over the past years, that some of them were incredibly frustrated. And privately, they told me that they weren't allowed to act. I can believe that. That seems obvious from the behavior of their subordinates who never really took their instructions very seriously. They knew they could go around and appeal to the Board of Selectmen. But that's no way to manage. If you establish someone in a management position, that's where the buck stops. And if that person fails to fulfill his or her responsibility properly, then the selectmen may legitimately replace that person. But they can't be on a daily basis or weekly basis telling that person what to do, or you don't have any reason to have a manager at all. So the succession of events that followed this unhappy moment in early 2020 revealed how much is wrong with our structure of government. There's nothing particularly wrong with the official legal structure. It's just that that's not what we do. So in a future broadcast, I'd like to explore with you alternatives, ways that we might remedy this, keeping to our New England traditions. That's important to me, as I think it might be important to you. But we really need to remedy this. We need to get back to where we, the citizens, are in control, where the elected officials are answerable to us. As an amusing sideline, and I'll close on that note, I once was speaking to the Board of Selectmen and I asked them, do you, this board, represent us, the voters, or do you represent town officials? Dead silence in the room, looking at each other awkwardly. I just waited. And finally, a couple of whispers between them, and one of them turned to me and said, well, I guess we represent the voters. How nice. A guess that they represent the voters. Who else would they represent? That's their sole function, isn't it? So let's talk about that a little bit more and see if there aren't things that we might do that would bring balance back to that matter. Thank you very much.